I'm back, and this time I'm buying into a $320 tournament where the prize pool is over $20,000. First place is going to get about $6,500, and there's 79 entries in total. And this is actually my favorite type of tournament structure, where it's a deep stack tournament and it should last about 10 hours. And the reason why I like these tournaments is because there's less variance involved, and I'm excited for this one. Hope you guys are too. Let's get right into the action. We are dealt King 10 offsuit in the cutoff position. Under the gun +1 is gonna limp it into us. And we don't do those limps around here. So we're gonna raise it up to 800, and it's folded around back to him, and he's going to make the call. So we're heads up to a flop. With him limping in, he should have a pretty wide range, and I can immediately remove a lot of premiums from his hand. The flop comes out, giving us absolutely nothing, and this probably hits his range a lot harder than it does mine, considering he was a limper. So when he checks, I'm going to decide to check it back for some pot control here. And the turn comes out and brings us out a king of spade, pairing us up. We got a mediocre kicker, but I'm not too worried about that, considering, again, my opponent did limp in. He should have a very weak range here, and he's not going to have a king a lot of the times in this spot. So when he bets 600, I'm going to go ahead and make the call to keep all of his bluffs in. If he has a 5 here, I don't want to scare him away. It's unlikely he has a 4 here, so I'm definitely just going to make a smooth call here and go to the turn. The river brings out the flush, and I'm not really liking that. If he was betting on a flush draw that just got there, but he only leads with 800 this time, and it's really not that much considering the pot size, so I'm definitely not going to fold here. I'm going to make the call because if I raise here, I'm only going to get better hands to call. He shows us ace-5 of clubs. Like I said, I read it pretty well here. He's only got a pair of 5s, and we're going to take down this pot. And it's a good start to the tournament. Let's keep up the momentum. Next up, we get dealt pocket 10s on the button. +2 raises it up to 900, and this is the exact same player as the previous hand, so we got a little bit of information on this particular player, and it's folded around to me. And with a premium hand like pocket 10s, I'm going to 3-bet this opponent to 3,000. Now, he did previously limp in on the last hand, and this particular hand he did not limp in. He actually bet 3x the pot to open up with. So he should have a fairly strong range here. I can eliminate a lot of the weak hands, and he should be on the top of his range, being under the gun as well. So I do got to be cautious of that. Man, he actually thinks for a while before putting in the call, and we're heads up again to the flop. The board comes out pretty bad for me. This hits his range pretty good here with opening in the early position. I also 3-bet, so of course this is also my range. So if he doesn't have any of these particular cards, he should be a bit worried here. But I'm also a bit worried here with 2 over cards. So once he checks it to me, I'm just going to check it back for some pot control and see if we can get some additional equity on the turn. The turn brings out an 8 of hearts. Now this brings us a backdoor straight draw. If we can hit the 9, or if we can hit the 10, we could essentially get a pretty good sized pot here, as long as if you don't have something like ace king if a 10 came out. This time he's going to lead with 2,000 instead of checking, and he could be doing this with flush draws. He could be doing this with just something like ace king. He could just have a jack here, something like ace jack. He could definitely have a queen here. There's a lot of hands that beat me, but I mean, it's a pretty good price. And if I do happen to hit a 10 or a 9, I do have a lot of implied odds in this particular situation. So with only 2,000 to win almost 11,000, I only need about 20% equity, actually under 20% equity, which I believe I have with my outs. I can also potentially bluff if a spade were to come out, and if he were to check it to me when a spade comes out, it could be a scare card that I can essentially bluff on. So there's a lot of ways I can go about this and taking this pot down. I think I'm getting pretty good odds here to try to take this on the river if we see a good card for us. And the river comes out a dream card. It brings the 9 of club, which is actually perfect because we block King 10, so it's very unlikely that he has a straight here, a better straight I should say. The flush didn't come out, so we essentially got the nuts. So it's definitely time to try to get every single chip he has, and this time he's going to lead with 3,000. And he doesn't have much behind. He pretty much committed his entire stack at this point, so I'm going to put him all in for his remaining 8,000 or so chips, and hoping he makes the call, because I know I got him beat. It's very unlikely he has me beat here. He's going to think for several minutes before actually putting in the call. We flip over our pocket tens, letting him know we hit the straight, and my opponent shows us king, queen of spades. So he was on a flush draw and had top pair with a very good kicker. So if that spade came out and he checked it to us, he could have definitely set a trap for us and got all of our chips. But thankfully it didn't come out. Overall, we played this very well. I think we did great. Let me know what you guys think, if I could play that better, or if you think I made any mistakes. I think I played it pretty good. So we got all of his chips, and that's what matters, right? This time we're raking in over 27,000 in chips for a massive 91 big blinds early in the tournament. This is huge for us. We got a huge chip stack, and we're taking the lead at this table. This time we're dealt ace 10 suited in the small blind. Cutoff raises it to 800, and that's not enough, so I'm going to raise it up here. Cutoff is going to have a very wide range, especially when it's folded to him. So we need to tighten up his range here and see what happens whenever I raise it to 2,500. Big blind is going to fold it, cutoff calls, so we're heads up to a flop. That doesn't really bring anything worth betting here. If he doesn't have a queen or if he doesn't have a 7, he's unlikely to call. I do have ace high, so I could be good here a lot of the times. If I check it and he bets, I will definitely call, but we'll see what happens. I decide to check it. He checks it back, so that's okay with me as well. We go to a turn that brings a king of spade. Now we got a gut shot. And with me re-raising him on pre-flop, I can definitely represent a king or a queen here. So I'm going to lead with 3,500 and try to steal this pot right now. And my opponent makes the call. Now my guard is up. I'm going to have to either hit my gut shot straight draw here or spike it ace. I'm thinking he has a king here, so with him calling, I definitely got my guard up, and we're going to have to hit a miracle river here. And the river comes out at ace of heart. I think this is a pretty good card for me, so if he does have a king here, I definitely don't want to check it because then I might lose some value. So I'm going to lead this time with 7,000, which is about 2/3 pot, give or take. And then my opponent shoves all in. Ouch, I definitely don't like seeing that. He could definitely have a queen here in the spot when he shoves all in. That's pretty much what he's repping here. I don't think he's doing this with a king. Just highly doubt he's doing something like that with an ace. I think he would just play it passively here and just call if he had a better ace. So I think he definitely has a queen, maybe king, queen, maybe ace, king. There's not too much I beat here other than a bluff, and that's really what I'm hoping for at this point. I mean, it's not much more to me. It's a total of 12,400. I already bet 7,000, so it's only about 5,000 or so more chips to try to win 37,000 after my call. So I'm going to make the call. It's very unlikely I'm going to win, but I got to considering how many chips are in the pot. Once I put in the call, he shows us the bad news of king, queen of diamonds, which is exactly what I expected. I was just praying he was trying to bluff me off the hand. Although I knew it was unlikely, I could have definitely folded here given what I put him on. We're going to take a massive loss this time and just keep our head held high, stay positive and level-headed, and move on to the next hand. It's folded around to the button, who raises it up to 1,000. I got ace-6 offsuit on the big blind, so I got the odds to definitely make the call here and go heads up to a flop. Doesn't bring me anything worth betting here, but I could definitely have him beat with an ace high. So we'll see what he does. I check and he opens with 1,300. Again, like I said, I could definitely have him beat with ace high here. Sometimes he would have a king here, but it's very unlikely. This is the same opponent that I just got into it with on the last hand where he had a full house. But I'm going to make the call and see what happens. And the turn brings out a great card for us. We got the ace of club now, giving us top pair, and this time he's going to lead with 2,000 after I check it to him. And he could be doing this with a lot of hands. He could be doing it with a flush draw. He could be doing it with a pair of sevens or any pocket pair. So I'm definitely not going to fold in this position yet with only 2,000 a call. Of course, again, like I said, sometimes he would have a king here and he would have me destroyed. But with only 2,000, I'm definitely going to make the call and see what happens on the river. And I'm definitely going to play this passively this time just because of the last hand. I want to be careful here and not be too aggressive with my chip stack. The river brings out a 10 of hearts. Not a great card for us. I'm going to check it and my opponent thankfully checks it back. I show my pair of aces and he lets me know that he had pocket threes. So I was right. He did have a pocket pair and he was trying to protect his hand on the turn there. But we luckily got the ace and paired up. So we're going to take this one down. And we got some of our chips back from our opponent from the full house that he had on us. It's not nearly as much as he got from us, but at least we won this one. We're dealt king, queen offsuit in the low jack position. It's folded to me and I raise it up to 1,000 to go. Only the big blind calls and we're heads up to the flop. That brings us top pair and a backdoor flush draw with 2 diamonds out there. I'm definitely not worried about a flush in this particular spot because I do have a blocker and I have top pair, top kicker. When big blind checks it, I'm not going to slow play here. I'm trying to build up a pot. So I'm going to lead with 1,000 and he makes the call. The 3 of diamond comes on the turn. Sometimes he's going to have a flush here, but it's unlikely, especially with a queen of diamond in my hand. But he could also have been on a straight draw here when he made the call on the flop, and that is what just got there if he had something like 6-7. And there's also a little bit of 2 pair combinations a big blind could definitely have in this spot, like 4-5 or 4-3. So when he checks it to me on the turn, I'm going to go the passive route and try to get some pot control here. So I check it back. The river is going to bring a 3 of spade and my opponent checks it again. Now he's checking it, so it leads me to believe he doesn't have a very strong hand here. If he had a flush, he would definitely be betting. If he had a set on the flop, he would definitely be betting with the board pairing on the river here. He would have full house. And if he had something like 2 pair, 4s and 5s or something like that, he would definitely be betting here, I would believe. So I think I do have the best hand here. I'm going to target any weak queens or weak pairs. So I'm going to lead with 2,000. My opponent doesn't think too long before putting in the call. I show him my queen and then he mucks his hand. He does not show what he had. So I think we put in a pretty good value bet on the river there, getting max value from him and all of his weak pairs, which is going to allow us to rake in a 21 big blind pot, which is pretty good. And our chip stack is starting to climb back up to where it was. Next, we're dealt ace king offsuit in the +2 position. I'm going to open it up to 1,000 to go. Only small blind calls, so we're heads up to the flop. The flop comes out pretty blank for me. It's not really good for my hand at all. I mean, I could represent this jack, but this time I'm going to go the passive route, and the turn's going to bring out an 8 of heart, and my opponent's going to lead with 1,300. I got 2 overcards, and He bet very small here, so there's a lot of cards that I could essentially steal this with on the river if another heart came out or an overcard come out. If he just has something like a pair of jacks, I could definitely try to steal this on the river here. So with that being said, I'm just going to make the call here and see what happens on the river. And the river brings out an ace of diamond, giving us top pair, top kicker, and this time my opponent is going to lead with 3,200. Now he's definitely sizing up this time, but I didn't call on the turn to fold on the river once I get top pair, top kicker. I'm really hoping he's just trying to steal this or just has a jack right here. If I was going to fold right here, I should have just folded on the turn, so I'm going to put in the call and see what he's got. And my opponent shows us the bad news. He has king 8 of diamonds, so he did unfortunately have an 8 here, and he definitely wasn't scared of that flush, obviously, and that was a really good value bet from him. I'll give him that. And this is the third time the board has paired and my opponent had one of those cards 2 out of 3 of the times. As you can see, this is one of those times where my opponent had 8. And earlier, my opponent had the queen when there was 2 queens on the board. So I think I'm starting to find a leak in my play here as I'm starting to do this voiceover and making too many calls when the board pairs. I should play more careful in these spots. But I'm learning from it as I'm watching this. So that's a good thing about being a poker vlogger, as I can learn from my mistakes and see exactly what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. So we're going to take this loss as a lesson, as we should whenever we do take losses, and always be on the lookout for the positive thing. This time we got the boys with us. We got the pocket aces and the low jack. I opened it up to 1,500. Cutoff, button, small blind, and big blind all make the call. What is going on when I get the boys? I got all of these callers. I definitely don't like going 5 ways to a flop with pocket aces, but that's what's happening here. And then the flop comes out and it's pretty dry. There's a 2 of 5 of club, bringing in a weak straight draw. 3 of 4 gets there, which is unlikely anyone has a 3-4 here. Someone could definitely have a king, but I love this flop actually. It's very dry. There's not a lot of premium cards on there. There's only the king. There's no flush draws, so it's a pretty good board for me. So when it's checked to me, I'm going to lead with 3,500, which is just under a half pot size bet. I definitely want to start getting some money in here with this many people. Someone's definitely likely to call. And I'm trying to build this pot up as much as possible as long as we have a clean run out. Only small blind makes the call. And this is the same opponent that had the 8 earlier. And it's time to try to get some of our chips back from him. We're heads up to a turn that brings the 4 of club. Now this does bring in some more straight draws, and now there's a flush draw. My opponent's going to check it to me again, and this time there's 15,000 in the pot, and I only have 15,000 remaining. With this board texture getting more wet, I do want to have some protection here, so I'm just going to shove it all in. For my remaining chips, bringing the pot total to 30,000, praying he makes the call. And my opponent thinks for about 30 seconds before making the call. I show him my pocket aces, and he asks the dealer if he needs to show his hand. The dealer says yes. There's still a river card to come, and my opponent shows us 5, 7 of clubs, which means he was a non-believer. He definitely didn't believe we had anything, and he probably thought we was on some type of draw or just trying to steal it here with a short stack. And I give him some props for the ballsy call. It's definitely going to help me breaking in a 45,000 chip pot, which is a 75 big blind pot, a massive pot right now. And we definitely got all of our chips back from this opponent. So let's go. We're back in action. We're getting our chips back, and it's time to keep it up. Let's go on to the next hand. This time we're dealt ace king offsuit in the big blind. +1 raises it to 1,200, and now that's just a min raise, and with me being out of position and also me needing to get a better idea of her range here, I'm going to pump it up pretty aggressively here and raise it to 5,000. My opponent doesn't think too much before going all in with 14,500. Now I already put 5,000 in. I'm definitely have to make the call here.
We call jacks.
There you go.
And that's it. We won the flip. We got our pair of aces, and we win a decent sized pot here of almost 30,000 in chips, which is about 50 big blinds. So pretty massive pot for us there as well. And we are just chipping up. Let's go.
Blinds are now 500, 1,000, 1,000. I have 55,000 in chips, so we got 55 big blinds. They're paying top 9 players. You can see first place gets 6,400. 50 players remaining, and registration is now over. We got just over 20,000 in the prize pool, so we're not doing too bad. The average chip stack is 47,000, so we got more than the average stack.
We're back from break, and the big blinds are shooting up. It's now at 500, 1,000, 1,000, and we are dealt pocket eights in the cutoff. Under the gun limps, and it's folded to me, and I raise it to 4,000. Honestly, I'm happy if I just try to take it down right now. I'm just trying to squeeze this pot, considering I'm in late position and under the gun limp, so she should have a very wide range here. And I'm just trying to put max pressure at this point and try to take it down right now. And if it goes to a flop, we definitely have some equity here with pocket eights. And it's folded to the under the gun, who makes the call, and we are heads up to the flop. That brings a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. And my opponent checks it to me. And with some backdoor potential here and 2 block cards, I blocked the straight and I blocked some flush draws. So with that being said, I'm going to put some more pressure on my opponent here. I can be representing some over cards here, some over pairs, I should say. I can definitely have a 10 in this particular spot, or set of 9s or set of 10s. So I'm just going to put max pressure on my opponent and lead with 7,000. My opponent thinks a bit for ultimately making the call. And now my guard is up, and the turn comes out a 9 of diamond. Then my opponent shoves all in. Ouch, that's not what I wanted to hear. I was hoping she'd check it. I could check it back and see what happens on the river, get a free river card. But it's unfortunate that we put ourselves in this position, and when my opponent goes all in, I just have to make this fold. I'm not beating too much here, except a flush draw or a straight draw. And I don't think my opponent is bluffing in this particular spot. Considering she limp called, this is exactly what's in her range. So I know I'm beat here. There's no reason for calling at all, so I'm just going to make the fold. I'm dealt a pretty hand, 8-7 suited on the button, which is the perfect position for this particular hand. Hijack limps to me, so I'm just going to make the smooth call here. There's no reason to raise with this particular hand. Big blind's going to check it, so we're 3 ways to a flop. That brings me trip 7s. Let's go. That's money to my ears. Both players check it to me, and with a flush draw out there, I'm definitely not going to play this slow. So I'm going to lead with 1,500, which is a 3rd pot size bet. And only the big blind makes the call. So we're heads up to a turn that brings out a 6 of heart, which is not a very good card for me. So when my opponent checks it to me, he could definitely just hit his flush here. So I'm going to check it back for some pot control. And now my opponent is leading with 4,000. Put in the call, and my opponent shows me Jack 7 of diamonds. Oh my God. It happened again, you guys, where I'm just calling too much on paired boards. I just got to let it go and stop being a calling station. I mean, really, that's just all it is at this point. Is I'm a complete calling station right now, and I am paying for it because my chip stack is just dwindling down. But we're going to keep our head up and still fight. This tournament is not over yet. I am not giving up. I never give up. Let's keep it going and try to climb out of this. This time I'm dealt ace-10 offsuit in the cutoff. It's folded around to me, and I'm going to raise it up to 3,000. Button is the only caller, and we're heads up to a flop that brings top pair on a very dry board. So this is really good for me, and with it being a dry board, I'm not going to lead out this time. I'm going to play defensively here and just check it. Then button leads with 2,500, and I'm definitely not going anywhere with top pair and a pretty good kicker. So I put in the call. The turn comes a 6 of club, and there's nothing really for me to be worried about here. So again, I'm just going to check it
And if my opponent bets, I'm definitely going to put in a call. If my opponent actually checks it back this time, she might just be trying to bluff me on the flop there and trying to take it down, playing her position. So when the river comes out of 8 of heart, I'm just going to check it again. If she bets, I have a plan to call, considering she's playing pretty passively and she could just be trying to steal it with her position. And this time my opponent bet 6,000, which is about half pot, and I got top pair, and with only a half pot size bet, I'm going to put in the call. And my opponent shows us the bad news of 5-7 is suited. We are in a massive downswing here. The blinds are now 1,000, 2,000, 2,000, and I'm unfortunately in the big blind right now with only about 5,500 remaining. But we are dealt pocket eights. Hijack is going to min raise, and with pocket eights here, I'm just going to shove it all in and try to get a double up. My opponent makes the call, and we're heads up to a run out.
Got eights.
I had ace,
Ace of spade, 9 of club, first pocket eights. Keep them low, dealer.
no hearts.
I like that. It's alright. Not too shabby. Get us a double. There you have it. We got a double up, so we're still in this fight, and we're not giving up yet. I'm going to stay disciplined and try to pick my spots the best I can and try to get it all in where it makes the most sense. This time I'm dealt king jack offsuit in the cutoff position, and I'm still very short stack here with the blinds being 1,000, 2,000. I only have 15,000 in chips, so it's about 7.5 big blinds. So when it's folded to me, I gotta shove this all in with 2 face cards. Big blind is gonna put in the call, and we got them dominated as they show us king 10 of hearts. Big blind calls. You got king 10 hearts. I got king jack.
I don't want my hand video. Can I have that?
You can sue.
Mine was worse.
Blank out there. There we go.
Gets it again.
Yeah, there's something with that camera.
And we double up again. We are on a run here as we're fighting for our tournament life here and just chipping up. We're doing pretty good. And this time I'm dealt king 8 suited in the hijack position. And this time I got a pretty good stack compared to the previous time. So people are going to be more careful with calling me when I shove, especially considering I've only shown pocket eights and king jack. So I'm just gonna shove it all in. If someone calls, I definitely got some equity here with king 8. This is a pretty good hand, and I'm still short stack at the end of the day. I only have 33,000. The blinds are still 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. So that's about 16 big blinds. I'm really trying to get some fold equity here and just take it down. And that's exactly what happens as it's folded all the way around. This time I'm dealt pocket 9s on the button. Under the gun and +1 both limp in. So there's a lot of dead money in this particular spot, and I'm dealt a premium with the short stack. So I'm just gonna try to squeeze and get them out of this and steal it down. Although if they call, I will be fine. It's likely going to be a flip unless they got a better pocket pair or a worse pocket pair. If they have a worse pocket pair, that would be ideal. I'd rather that than them have 2 overs. But with only 19 big blinds, I'm just gonna shove it all in right here. And small blind shoves all in on top of mine.
Well, I hope you got a lower pocket pair than me.
It's like a little warmer over here.
Ace king versus 9s. Keep them low, dealer.
Videos.
Just make it easy. Ooh, put a 9 out there for me. Give me a 9. Nice hand. Nice play. Alright, this is the verdict. We just came in 26 places. It's actually not updated. So unfortunately we busted in 26, far away from the money. There's a couple mistakes I made as far as the I had a couple bad calls, so hopefully we can run it up next time. See you guys on the next one.